Hello, everyone. It's me, Vasoya. I'm back again with a new video and actually a new series. I had to change it from the last one, and this new one will be called Ya Talks. And today I have a special guest with me, Sister Journey. I brought her back on because everybody was asking about her last time and about like all the wisdom she was sharing in regards to family and health and healing, as well as touching on about homeschooling and just sharing all the things that she experienced, and especially being from like the Congo and actually living here. So I wanted to bring her back on because I know everybody was asking about her again. So I thank y'all for her coming on. And Journey, you can introduce yourself again.
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here again. It's a pleasure to be here amongst you guys. My name is Journei Bimwala. I'm an Afro Roots herbalist. I'm also a nutritionist coach, along with educator and forager. So that's pretty much what sums me up.
Yeah. Yeah, you're really good at foraging. Like now when I go places, I'm like, I know that plant, and I'm like, I know how to identify it, and I start thinking about, oh, I can make this tincture and stuff. So like, you're
Yeah.
definitely good for teaching
It
people.
opens up a whole new world, right? Now you step
Hmm.
outside, you kind of like see things differently.
Yes, absolutely. And it's amazing to see, like, when I think about everything that the Most High created, it's like everything in nature is there for the seasons and the illness that are around at different times of year, and it's right there.
Yes,
And,
absolutely. People are always like, wow, I didn't know I had this. I didn't know it was going in my backyard. I didn't know it was right here in front of my building. It's like,
hmm.
yes, he has definitely provided us with everything that we need. We just have to be able to connect with it and know how to utilize it in a way that is respectful always, take what you need. Only take what you need. Can't be greedy, because you be greedy, there's like a whole bunch. There's us, there's the animals, we all are here together. So we definitely have to always be mindful of one another.
Yes, that's actually a good analogy because I was thinking about when I saw the pine cones and I saw the squirrels, and I was like, oh, I wanted to get it, but I was like, I know they eat those, so I was like,
Yeah.
let them have it.
Yeah, they collect all kind of squirrel. Squirrels are a little. Is they're a little funny because they spend so much time collecting food in the fall and hiding them, and
Hmm.
then you have other animals that like when they say work smarter, not harder. So
Hard,
they let the
yes.
squirrels collect all of the nuts. They just locate where the squirrel hide their nuts, and then they just go into the squirrel's hiding place
Hmm.
and steal their nuts because they didn't want to do the work. And then they have a whole slew of food available to them. And the squirrels, they're also smart because they don't just have one place. They have like various places where they hide things in
Hmm.
case one area is bomb rushed by another predator or somebody else take their food. They know that they have other spot where they have backup.
Yeah. That's smart. They're storing up. It's the storehouse for them.
Yeah,
And that's how you be
absolutely.
prepared. Yeah. And that's what I like about your like foraging class, because it teaches you how to be prepared for if anything happens in a case of emergency. If like you get sick, you know what to use. If you need to eat and there's a food shortage, you have
Yeah.
everything right there in at your disposal that people just ignore on a daily day-to-day
Mhm.
basis. So I definitely do appreciate that, especially now in a time where we have shortages like in grocery stores and things are starting to
Yeah.
get kind of tight. It's like it's good to know these type of things to how to survive.
Absolutely, especially with us because we don't trust the medical system, and
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so. So you can't be like, okay, I'm not going to take, the pharmaceuticals, but then I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. It's like you're still sick. You still have to take
Yeah.
care of that. So if you're not going to take the pharmaceutical, which is perfectly fine, then you need to have an alternative. You know what I mean? You need
Mm-hmm.
to have something that you trust in, and you can trust nature. that
Yes.
is that is one that you can absolutely trust nature, because like it's not going to give you anything that you don't need. And if you know what it is that you need, you take your health within your own hand, and you do the damn thing and get yourself better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it's true. It's funny that you said that because I was just thinking about like last night I was reading Genesis and back to like the creation story and about how the Most High, how he created the different plants and the reasoning for the different plants, and it just shows that everything was created and designed to help. It was all designed to help so we can help each other, from the animals to the plants, to help us to heal. And because we was never supposed to depend on medicines, and we were never supposed
Yeah.
to go to taking all these poisons and toxins, and that's destroying not only our bodies but our minds as well. And it's actually causing like a division and separation in a sense, even from us getting close to the Most High, because we are so filled with all these toxins. And even in the food and the animals, even the animals we eat, they're eating these toxins, and then we kill them and eat
Yeah.
them and putting that in our bodies. So it's like,
Exactly. It's like men is really who you have to watch out for, you know.
yes.
So with greed, the intention is not always right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, I can't trust you. Put your trust into the Most High, and the Most High has provided us with nature and has
Hallelujah.
everything that is needed. Because even pharmaceutical can exist without nature.
Yes,
And plants are the only thing the government cannot patent. They can't
they can't.
patent
Mm-hmm.
plants. They can't. So because they can't patent plants, they don't want you to use it. So they tell you what, don't use it. It's not FDA approved. It's dangerous. You know, we don't know the side effect. But then when you
Mm-hmm.
watch those commercials on medication, you know, they'll tell you one of the side effects can be death. You know, you get paralyzed. You have all this stuff, but that's okay though, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. But don't trust the plants.
Yeah. It's backwards.
Yes, very backwards. And if you just take the time and just pay attention to the things that they're saying to really get into our head, they play with words, you know,
Mm-hmm.
weeds, invasive species, all of these things to get you to look at something that is good for you as something that is bad or
Bad for you.
nuisance. So
Mm-hmm.
you get on board by getting rid of it too.
Yeah. And that actually brings me to my first question that I wanted to bring up. The first thing I wanted to bring up and discuss is about what are your methods for homeschooling?
Okay. So homeschooling for me, when I think of homeschooling, is we parents, we are all homeschool. If you have children, right,
Mhm.
whether you are officially homeschooling them in a sense of letting the state know this is what you're doing and following certain curriculum, you
Mhm.
know, like that's the official way. Or the when you're just raising your children, when your child is young, you're teaching them, you know, you're assisting them in walking, you're teaching them how to feed themselves, you're teaching them how to clean the house, how to keep them clean. That is homeschooling. You
Mm.
know, we homeschool our children whether we are aware of it or not, because we are showing them things, we are demonstrating some certain things to them. If you're not conscious about it, then you are instilling a lot of time bad habits and you're just unaware of it. And then when your children say something or demonstrate something, be like, wait a minute, where you learn that from? Why are you doing that? Well, I got it from you, mama. I got it from you, daddy. I got it from you, uncle,
Mhm.
because you're not aware, but we always are teaching. Now, my way of homeschooling, now the way I look at it is more like life schooling, right? I'm looking at the full picture, right?
Mhm.
Not just, you know, academics,
Mhm.
because you can be great in academics and still live a life of trauma,
Mhm.
just not a good life at all. You know, academics for me, it's part of homeschooling, but it's not everything. For me, I'm looking at the whole person. I'm looking at my family as a whole. Like as the parent, as the teacher, what is it that I want to instill into my children? What kind of life do I want them to embark on? So I first look at my own life, right? Things that I've been through, because we are loaded with experiences. We are loaded with lessons, right? Because
Mhm.
we've lived life. And a lot of time when you hear the apples don't fall too far from the
Yes.
tree, know that your children are going to exhibit many of your good and bad things. It
Mhm.
just it is what it is, right? So I look at all of those things and see, okay, what do I want? What do I want to share with them? What do I want to teach them about? What do I want to prevent them from getting into? What type of life experience I don't want them to necessarily get into, because I've been down that road and I know what it's like, right? And then I take all of that stuff and I make a plan with it. I look at my family history, things that my family did really well, and things that my family is actually struggling with.
Mm,
And then it becomes, okay, well, do I want to continue on that same path, right? Or is there certain familiar habit that I want to actually break?
mhm,
So again, I will start. That's how I actually start the planning, right? It starts with a vision. You have to have a vision for your family. You have to have a vision for your children. And then I look at what I'm equipped with, right? Like, am I patient? My triggers, my own childhood trauma, right? Like, how does it show up? So for me, that showed up a lot with yelling, beatings, and things like that, because I come from a generation where it's like children don't get to, children are
mhm.
seen and not heard. When I
Yes,
tell you to do something, you do
you
it.
gotta do
If you
it.
don't do
Mhm,
it, either you get yelled at, you get beat, or whatever the case may be. That's how I grew up. But then I didn't want to be that kind of parent, because as a child, I remember how it felt. I literally remember how I felt like a child, and I didn't want to bring that on into my children. But because it's what I knew, that's how I ended up in the beginning of my journey. That's what came out. When my child did something that I didn't like, it was automatic. You know what I mean? It was just like automatic. I was like, no, that's not what I want. Because when I'm looking at my child's face and she's scared, she's fearful, she's crying and all that stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to do that.
mhm,
But at the same time, in me not wanting to do it and me wanting to stop it, it was a struggle within me to stop that, because then I have to deal with my own demons. I had to deal with that within myself and recognize, like, okay, I have anger issues. Okay, I lack self-control, because just because someone does something, my first response shouldn't be violent,
mhm,
not to my child, right? Because a lot of time children, they just don't, they're kids. They do kids thing,
mhm,
so I had to recognize all of that stuff, and my children kind of helped me um, see those things. Because once I decided, like, okay, I want to officially homeschool my child, um, I will start teaching them the regular academics, right? I'll start to teaching them things, and one day she'll get it right, and then the next day, all of a sudden, you forgot everything that we just did yesterday. And in my mind, it didn't make any sense. Like, now you're playing with me. Now you're playing with me. And
mhm.
because you're playing with me, I'm going to show you that I'm not the one to play with. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not a good learning environment. Who likes to learn in that kind of, because now your child is sitting
Hostile.
at the table like this, right?
Mhm,
You raise your voice a little bit, they like, no. And I had to realize, like, no, because if my child was in school, right, with, because now I'm not just mom, I'm also a teacher. And as a teacher, you have to think about, okay, how I'm going to imprint this lesson into my student. What is the best way to transfer X information to my student? What are my student weaknesses, strength, and play along those side? So I had to, like, learn all of these things, and I had to also learn my children personality. I had to see them as a person, right, as a
mhm,
whole being. And
mm,
with that, seeing them as a whole being, like, okay, that's my child, but that is not me, right? If she's afraid of me, then it's going to be harder for me to really teach her certain things. So, okay, I have to undo that, and I had to learn how to undo that. And that was hell.
mhm,
That was hell to undo, because once someone is afraid of you, right?
mhm.
You just saying, okay, I'm not going to beat you no more. I'm going to stop yelling. That doesn't mean absolutely anything, because that person is still like, yeah, you say that, but your face
Yeah,
is
your
saying something
actions,
else, or your
and it's
tone
abusive
is
behavior.
saying something else.
Mhm. It's like
Yes.
abusive.
And because Yeah, and because you're also trying to work out your I was still working out my to be able to control myself.
Hmm.
And sometimes I did really well in controlling my anger, and other time it was just eating me up inside, and it's just you know what I mean? And then for the child, it's like, you see, like, this is why I'm still afraid of you.
Hmm.
So it was a long trial, because I was like, okay, I got to get myself together. And so I knew that already I didn't want my children to have the same experiences as me. So that was the start. And I mean, that also means, because I came from that space, I had to start with me and changing me first before I can change them, because I have to be able to model it. And I brought them on board with what I was going through. Like, I'll sit her down and be like, listen, I have a problem. I'm struggling with this thing. I don't want, my intention is not to hurt you. These are the things that causes me to behave or act this way. I've never put it on as like, because you did this, that's why I yelled.
You
No,
took
that is not
ownership.
why.
You took
Yes,
ownership.
I took ownership of it, and I asked her for help. I was like, listen, what's going to help me is, while I'm doing things, I need you to tell me when you're afraid. I need you to say, hey, mommy, I'm not comfortable right now. Mommy, you're scaring me. Or whatever it is, you just let me know, because I know those words, soon as it enter into my head, and I know that I'm working on myself, it will help me to kind of stop on the track, and we'll take a pause, right? And then I will compliment her. I will applaud her on even just sharing that with me, because even just sharing that was hard
Hmm.
for her to do. And started building up a trust. So I just started with behavior things when we started homeschooling. Like, I literally had to put academic aside and just work on the
Right. Yeah,
relationship
relationship.
between my children and I. And once I got her to a space where she was able to trust me, and she saw that I'm doing the work, and that the yelling and the beating was getting less and less and less, to the point it was even non-existent,
Hmm.
then she started to open up a little more. And then I was also getting to know her, because when your children are away from you for having many hours, trust me, you don't know your child when your child is away, because when children are at school, they behave one way. When they're at
Hmm.
home, they behave another way. And I want to know my children as they are. I want to see your faults, your good. I want to see it all. I don't want to see a side of you. I want to know all of you. So whatever it is that they were into, we indulge into it. I give them a voice. If you don't like something, say something. We started to have conversation instead of me dictating or lecturing. It was more conversation, because I wanted to get into their head and see, well, how do you think? Like, what's your thinking process? Because if I know how you process things mentally, then I can strategize how to imprint things into you.
Hmm.
Because my daughter, she's very impulsive. At first, she's very impulsive, and she likes to experience things. She's one of those children where you can't just tell her the stove is hot, don't touch it. She'll
Don't touch
listen, and
it.
she'll be like, okay, the stove is hot, if you touch it, you can get burned.
Hmm.
But I still want to know if, like, maybe it'll be different for me. And
Hmm.
she'll still go ahead and touch it. So a child like that, I know that just telling her no, don't do this, doesn't penetrate here. And I wanted her to fully understand things so she can stop herself. So we'll talk about it. She'll go ahead and experience something that she wasn't supposed to. Now it becomes a conversation. Well, what made you want to do it? What was happening with you that caused you to still want to go through with it, despite me saying this, that, and the third? And then she'll let me know. She was like, no, I was just curious. I really, really just wanted to know. I know you say this, but I had this sense in me that was pushing me to do that.
Hmm.
Right. And then we'll kind of talk more about it. And I was trying to instill in her, like, even like letting her know, you behave this way, and that's fine, but not everything is meant to be experienced. You're going to have to learn how to pick certain things to experience, and also had to learn from other people's experience,
Yes.
so that you don't get hurt in the process. So we'll watch movies that kind of show those type of behavior, and the outcome of certain things, and you just become a conversational piece. That's just how I was doing it with her, and it was working because every time she'll have a thought, she can share it with me and we'll talk about it. And
Mhm.
as long as you're sharing with me, even if she makes the mistake and doing it anyway, right? Let's review it. What happened when you did it, right?
Mhm.
You wanted it to do this way. Now what happened? Okay, you made a mistake. Now how do you fix? How do you come back from that? How do you make it right? Now we got to walk it back because everybody makes mistakes and you're built this way. So how do we walk it back? So I wanted her to learn how to be able to come back from a bad experience or a bad choice, because my daughter, in her mind, when she used to do something bad or she wasn't supposed to, if it turns out bad, she'll turn against herself. You know, I'm a bad person,
She
like
condemns
all of
herself.
this thing in
Yeah.
her head. And
Mhm.
yes, and I didn't want her to feel that way. I had to constantly remind, like, we all make mistakes, we all do these things, but we have to look at the choices. Once you make a mistake, let's review it, see what you did right, what you did wrong, and then the next time, make sure you don't do it again. And then sometimes I'll create exercises around those things to
Mhm.
help her practice the things that she's actually learning. Because it's one thing to teach someone something, but you also have to give them time to practice it so that they can actually earn and learn how to utilize those things. And parents a lot of time will tell our kids, don't do this, don't do that. But we don't understand, or we no longer connect with the emotions that they feel inside. And we don't tell them what to do with that emotion. They can't just shut it off. They can't just shut it off, right? But you told me not to do this, but now I'm left with this feeling, this anxiety, these thoughts in my head, and you didn't really tell me how to deal with it. So at one point or another, it's going to come out. They're gonna have to push through with it, and they can't be punished for it because you didn't give them the techniques and the tools. So I always work. Once I give her a tool or a technique, now you got to practice how to use it.
Mhm.
You got to practice how to use it. So we put things into practice. Um, because she was afraid of in the beginning, the way I'll do things, sometimes I will yell on purpose so that she can speak back to me. You know, never disrespectful or anything like that, but just I want to hear your voice. And
Mhm.
since I'm the number one person you fear, if you can defeat your fear against me, she'll be good.
Mhm.
She'll be good. But I had to set it up so that she can exercise that and allow her to step out of it so that she can actually confront those fear, confront me, and tell me when I'm doing something that is not right for her. And I always tell her, I don't know everything. I
Mhm.
don't know everything. So
You
I
know
can be wrong.
how
But if
great that is for a parent to say that, because that's something that you don't hear often. Most parents, like, they know everything and that's it, or they don't want to admit it. So
yeah. So I
that's
always tell her that I don't know everything. And that's why I also need you. You're a member of this family. Your voice matter. If you
Mhm.
see something that I'm doing that you're not in tune with, that you don't agree with, we can talk about it. Doesn't mean that you're gonna have it your way, but let's talk about it. Because if what you're saying makes sense, then I have no problem saying like, okay, cool. Because I want them to be participant member in the family. I don't want them just to be parts that I get to move around here, there, and there. And history was a really big thing in my homeschooling with my children too, because especially with us, with everything that's going on, we have to make
Mhm.
sure that our children understand the real world. I want them to
Mhm.
learn how to make it out there. I want them to know how to live and also how to survive.
Mhm.
So some tools that I learned the hard way as a child, and then I'm also a woman and I have girls and also I have a son. So with my girls, I have to teach them about some of the things that may or may not happen to them and what to do in those circumstances. Survival skills. Like I'll take my daughter outside. We'll go walk around outside and
Mhm.
I'll show them like if in case you get kidnapped, this is what you need to do. And I'll show them to look for cameras because in streets, depending on what stores are around, there are cameras. So I always want her
Mhm.
to be aware of where are all of the cameras located out in the street. So in case something happens to you, you want to be place yourself in place where you can be seen on camera so that while we're looking for you, we
Mhm.
can be able to check those things. I showed her stores, like we have bodegas and then we have the name brand store like CVS, Rite Aid and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I always try to look for name brand stores because name brand store 9 out of 10 times always have cameras, right?
Yeah.
Corner stores, they don't always have cameras. So I was like,
Mhm.
look for that. If you need help, look for a woman that has a child. Like like we'll literally go outside and I will show her if you're out late at night. And she was young. I was like, but I don't know what her at the time I didn't know what her teenage life was going to be like. And I
Mhm.
grew up in foster care, so I know what it's like to be out in the street and in certain bad environment.
Yeah.
And I be like, when you're out in the street, if you ever out in the street in the dark, don't walk on the sidewalk because there's the cars parked. Any van could pull up and
Mhm.
literally
Yeah.
drag you in. So walk on the street, the side where the cars are coming towards you so that, you see things coming towards you. It's like all of those little things. I went as far as teaching her micro expression, how to read people, facial expression, body
Mhm.
languages, all of those things was things that I was putting into her because I know what she's going to face. But at the same time, also working on her self-development. In my homeschooling thing, self-development is huge. I need you know thyself. Everybody hear about that. Know thyself,
Mhm.
right? So my children have to know thyself. They from young, they have to know their blood, like what's your blood type? What I mean? Something simple as you have to know everything about you. You have to know your good and your bad. And every time we'll have like we meet at the beginning of every term. I don't pick things for them. We do it together, and I'll ask them, okay, what is it that you want to learn this year? What is it that you're interested in, so that I can kind of fuel that. I don't want to give them things that they're not into. I want them to explore themselves. And whatever things that they're actually weak in, I help them to strengthen it. But I let them pick a part of themselves that they themselves feel that they need to improve on. But what some things that you want to improve? What are some things that you did well last year? Because I also want them to be proud of their work,
Mhm.
right? So I asked them, well, what are some of the things that you did that you're really, really proud of? And then I find anything out there, any programs out there, anything out there that fall right into those things that they need. My daughter had low self-esteem issues, so I know I had to work on building up her self-esteem. So that was also part of our work. Relationship. Children make friendships from young, right?
Mhm.
So I need her to learn to build her own standards of friendship. What do you look for in a friend? I'll
Mhm.
ask them, what do you look for in a friend? What do you consider a friend?
Mhm.
How are you a friend to someone? What's some of the things that you do that you feel like it's a good friend, action towards your friend? And are you also the type of friend that you want others to
To
be
be to
towards
you,
you?
yes. Mhm.
So we work that because I want them to have. Yes, I want them
Mhm.
to have a standard in that because you take that in any and every relationship that they are going to form as they get older. Um, my daughter has leadership potential, but she wasn't a leader when she was young. She was a follower. So, and I've seen that. Like, she was so desperate to have friends that she was willing to just do anything just for that friendship. And I remember there was this one friend of her that was actually using her. Like whenever she wanted to be friends with her, she'll ask to be around her and they'll play together. But then when she was tired of her, she won't answer any of her thing. And my daughter, she was hurt. So we'll talk about it and I'll tell her like, well, how do you feel about it? What do you want to do about it? I don't want to tell her like, dump her. No, what do you want to do about it? Well, I still want to be her friend, but why do you still want to be her friend if she treats you this way and that way?
She treats you badly.
And
Yeah.
yes, what is it about it with you? What's going on within you that you feel it's okay for someone else to mistreat you? Like I wanted her to connect the dots. And it took her a long time before she got to a point where she's like, you know what? I don't want to be her friend no more. And I'm going to end the relationship. It took her a while, but we continue having those conversations. When something bad will happen, Okay, she'll come home, she'll tell me, this what happened, and we'll just talk it out. What do you want to do about it? Is that a sign of a good friend? She'll be like, no. Okay, but how do you show love to yourself, right? So kind of going back to self-love. And so all of those different things I just kept doing. And that was, again, part of our homeschooling. I was really intentional in the person, who they are, their character, their value, the family standard. I always keep telling them, like, us as a family, this is what we believe in. I am big on family, being there for one another,
Mm-hmm.
looking out for each other. Like, that is huge for me. It's not me and them. No, we are family, and this
You're
is what it
one.
means. And
Mm-hmm.
I have them practice that, because siblings, I have them practice that amongst each other. But at the same time too, because we, in our thing, we have an issue when we look at family, where you have this one person that takes on everything, that becomes the person where the whole family depends on, everybody else doing whatever they want to do, but then you feel like, if I don't do this, everything is going to fall to crap.
Mm-hmm.
And with my daughter, she was the oldest, and she has the responsibility of looking after her siblings. And she knew what those responsibilities were. However, when she was struggling with her self-esteem, when she was going through her own turmoil, I
Mm-hmm.
relieved her off of that responsibility temporarily, because it's like, no, you need to focus on you, right? Don't worry about your brothers and sister. I got them. I'm here. You need to focus on
On
you,
you. Mm-hmm.
and heal from what you got going on. Once you finish with that, then you can be back on board. Because in my family, we know that people are going to pass away. That's a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
If someone passes away and they have children, there's going to be some children that's going to be left. And a lot of time, the people that are left to take care of those children, they don't do it out of love. A lot of time, those children are left to fend for themselves. So I didn't grow up with my parents. So in my back of my mind, because of my experience, I was like, okay, in case I'm not here, I want my children to be able to be there for each other and know how to deal with adults situation, and how to navigate through that. I can't just leave them and do everything for them. Something bad, God forbid, something bad happens to me, and then they're just kind of like, oh my God, no, I can't have that.
And this
So
I was gonna ask, like, so how, like, do you think you teach your children based on like how you grew up, and the experiences that you went through, and like with the experiences you went through, do you feel like it was because of being between two countries, or that made it harder and trying to adapt from one country to this country, or do you think you just
yeah, it's kind of like all of that together that you mentioned, because me going from the Congo, living in France, having my experience in France, then being here, it has actually opened my eyes and given me a lot of experiences on people. Then being away from my family, because when I came into the United States, I was 12 years old,
Mhm,
and everything that I knew, everyone that I knew, were no longer part of my life. There was no more contact until I was about like 19, 20. So I
mhm.
was left in a country unknown to me, all by
Yeah,
myself,
and didn't
new
know you know the
language,
language.
new culture, new
Hmm.
everything. I didn't know the language. People here move and think differently than what I'm used to. And I had nothing. And the only thing I did have, was the Most High. So I held on to that
Hmm.
really tightly. And so those experiences, and then just being in foster care literally helped me to kind of snap out and be aware of the real world. Because everybody wants to, oh, I just want to help children, I want to take
And that's
children
not the
home and
truth.
do that.
Hmm.
That's not the truth. It's a hellhole for children over there. Children are abused, or taken home from abuse and then abused while they're in the system. So I came in, I was like naive. I was this little African girl who grew up in a sense like, whatever an adult say to you, you do it. You don't ask question, you just do it. And that's what I was doing. But it was new to the American family that I was with, because they're not used to that. They were most used to children being talking back, not doing what they were supposed to be told. So with me, this one was the parent, she was like, oh, okay, I got myself a good one. So she just threw everything at me. Everything. I was doing everything. I was her Cinderella. And she knew I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't. I'll just take care literally of everything. And I watched the other kids doing whatever that they wanted to do. And she claimed love for me, but she didn't until one day at 16. It took me a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
snapped. I literally snapped out of it. I was like, no, this, I can't do this. This is not going to work. And I found my voice. I started speaking up for myself. I started saying, no, I'm not doing this. No, if I'm here, you get paid for me, give me my money.
Yeah.
Like it was just a whole different me. So I had to make sure that my children also have those things and know how to navigate
Get
through
through
that,
it. Yeah.
through
And
it.
that's what I was
So
gonna ask. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask. So it's interesting that you brought that up because I was gonna ask, like, could you share more, like, about even like what your relationship with like the Most High? Like, I know like I said, yeah, but I was just wondering, like, how do you feel like he kept you, or the things, how your relationship blossomed with him through everything that you went through in life?
Oh man, like from young, because I always feel like although I wasn't born here, me and African American community, we've had like the same type of growing up, because I wasn't raised by my parents. When I
Mhm.
was in Africa, I was raised by my grandparents, both
Grandparents.
my mom's side and my dad's side. Like I go back and forth between the two. My father had me when my father was both of my parents was 18 when I was born. So,
Wow.
he got kicked out of his parents' house because his father was a pastor and wasn't having that. Like, you want to do adult things and have babies out
Mhm.
there and get out of my house and, go do what you got to do. So he went into the army. My mom, she wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. So my grandparents kind of took me under their wing and they loved on me really, really hard. And they taught me about God and they instilled that in me. So, and we always went to church, but it really wasn't until I was here when that's the only person I had. So I will talk to him all the time,
Mhm.
all the time. I shared everything, and it's so funny because um, he put people in my journey to literally help me and guide me and help me through everything that I was going on. Sometimes I walk around and we're like, I was looking for a church and I found a church that was really nice. People were really nice and they helped me through that transition. But then when time was up, then it's like, okay, I wanted to make friends. Like all of the things that I needed and I requested, I was always getting those things. I was being favored and protected from a lot of things. I've had bad experiences, but those bad experiences weren't to harm me and destroy me, but it was mostly to help me blossom and be who I am. So that was everything. I held on to that tight. I mean, I got to a point even one time I didn't want to be here no more, because it's like nobody's here. I'm here by myself. Everything I know is not here. And remember, I didn't want to be here no more. I literally wanted to commit suicide. And I was walking towards the highway because I just didn't want to be here no more. And
Mhm.
then I stopped. I stopped because I know that is not the way of the Most High. And because I love him so much, I didn't want to disappoint him. And I know that he loved me and I know that there is better for me. So I didn't do it. I didn't do it, and I didn't do it because of him. I couldn't trust in me,
Mhm.
right? So I put all of my trust in him. I put all my trust and faith in him. It's like I always knew no matter what, I was going to be okay.
Mhm.
I can have $5 in my pocket and that's the only $5 that I have. And I see
Ooh,
someone in
been
need and
there.
I will give them my last $5 because I
Mhm.
know that I'm going to be fine. Like, no, don't worry about it. I'll be okay. And
Mhm.
let alone I will be okay, because then there'll be someone else that will come across my way and will help me out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that has been amazing. And I've always made sure that I've did all that he needed me to do and wanted me to do. But just like most children and things like that, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? Everybody else is seems to be living the life, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at my friends, because me and my peers, we really couldn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, because I was considered being very serious. Because for me, it's like, no, if this is not right, I'm not going to do it. You know, like I was really like that. And most of my friends, they were just kind of like, living life and no care in the world, don't care if they hurt someone or not, is that whatever. And it looked really appealing, because I was like, I'm doing everything right, but I'm still hurting. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
still hurting, and I'm alone.
Yeah.
I'm all by myself, and they all were there together. Like, I want that. So when I turned like 18, I was like, God, I said a prayer, and I said, like, I just want to go see what it's like to be on the other side. I really want to, I want that. And I did
Mhm.
just that. I crossed over
Yeah.
to see the other side and to see what was all the hype about. And once I did that, it kind of severed the kind of, it was kind of like of a cut, like kind of like a cut off the relationship, because I wasn't communicating the same way as I was
Mhm.
before, right? There was no more communication, because I was into the world now.
Well, yeah.
And into, yeah. And being into the world, I've learned a lot. And it allowed me to, I needed that. Sometimes you need that to have a full understanding, so that when you do go back, there is no doubt, right?
Mhm.
There is no, there is none of that. And then it allowed me also to understand people better, what they were actually going through, and to see, like, you know what? They're not having fun. They're hurting. They don't have anybody either. And it's just people who are miserable, who are together and doing the best they can to keep themselves happy, and they are lost.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I got a chance to see that. Once I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back, you know. But going back is not easy either, because in going back, I had to repent. I had to ask for forgiveness. I had to kind of like, it took a long time to get that relationship going and flowing again, because I used to talk to God all the time. And when I
Mhm.
say all the time, like I'll walk outside, if whatever's in my mind, I'm speaking it out loud to Him. If I trip and I didn't fall, I say thank you. Like, it was just, it was
Mhm.
like we always together. Like, there was no separation, and I wanted that back. But how do you get that back when you haven't spoken in years,
Mhm.
right? It was very uncomfortable. It's like, I'll start a little bit, then because I felt guilty, the guilt in me, I felt like I let him down. I felt like it wasn't even so much as him not listening to me, it was just me and the guilt and the shame. You feel shameful, like, it was like I didn't really need to do all of that, right? And little by little, I just kind of got right back into it. But one thing that I did learn in terms of my belief and my spirituality is, like, I know that I don't want to have a medium. I don't want to have something or someone in between to tell me what the most high want for me, and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. Like, I that relationship, it's because he knows
Personal.
me,
Mhm.
right? He knows me
Mhm.
personally. He knows my trial. He knows my heart. He knows my soul. He knows what I will do and would not do. I don't have
Mhm.
to go into explanation of anything, and anything he needs me to know and hear,
Yeah.
it,
Yes. Yes.
it, it comes to me directly or indirectly, but it comes straight to me. So I stay on that, because
Mhm.
I've tried many other types of faith, religion, different types of churches, and too much con. And as a woman, I wanted someone to take me under their wing, and then, then it's like, you think everything is good, then you see like, okay, it's a fraud,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the type of person, I give it all.
Mm-hmm.
I give it all. And I don't have the time to exert all of that energy in frauds, in fake things, and just to find out later, like, oh, I've been duped. And
Mm-hmm.
that happened so many times. I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. It doesn't even make any sense. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna go with him and him only, and build and have that rapport and have that relationship, and continue to honor him, honor my ancestors, honor my family, and do the things that I need to do. But if I'm gonna fall, it has to be because of my own doing, not because someone tricked me for X, Y, and Z. I can't. I refuse, and I'm not going. I'm not going back to that, because men are sinful. Men will
Yes.
naturally. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. At some point, I don't know when you're going through a hard time, or for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. Now today is the day that you're actually going to be deceitful to me, even though you've been great for X amount of time. It
Yeah.
happens. It happens too
All the
much.
time. Yes.
So I had to put that back into me and trust that he will let me know and he will guide me.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been doing that, I've been blessed, and I've been really content with the way things move along. And I do the same thing with my children. I give
Mm-hmm.
them the same thing. I want them to pick up of their free will as well, right? They have their own relationship. And it's not for me to judge. It's not for me to, it has nothing to do with me, but I will guide them,
Yeah.
open up that communication where we can talk about it freely, where I can hear where you're coming from, because it's going to come to, things are going to come to each one of us differently, right?
Mm.
Because we are all are here for different things and
Yes.
not the same things. And you know, sometimes, like I say, he'll put people in my way to guide me, to deliver messages, because I am stubborn. He knows that I'm
Mm-hmm.
stubborn. It's just, it is what it is. So he knows how to get through to me. He knows what to do, who to put in place, and how the best way that I actually receive
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah. Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know so I go with that. And sometimes and I'm one of these people who have to go through certain things to really learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I,
And he'll
I'm
tell
one
you
of those
like,
people.
don't go that way, but you want to be stubborn and go that. Trust me, that's that's me and y'all all the time. I be like, Father, I'm sorry. Like I'm coming said I'm sorry again because you told me not to go over there and play with those kids, but
Yep.
because I want to see, I want
Hmm.
to go. And it's not that I don't hear him and like I don't have a relationship with him. It's sometimes that stubbornness, and you're like, well, look like they're having fun over there. So can I please go play with them? It's like a parent with a child. Your parents say but you sneak out and you want to go hang out. Then you get burnt, and then you're like,
Yes,
oh, I'm sorry.
exactly.
So it's
But one thing I learned not to do is to be ashamed, right?
mm-hmm,
Because when you feel ashamed, when you feel a big amount of guilt, you hide.
mm-hmm,
When he's there, like, I see you, it's okay,
mm-hmm.
like come out, tell me, let's talk about it. So I've learned not to do that, and that's helped me, because like even if I do something that I'm not supposed to, I'm still talking about it, like what led me to do it, or the emotion, the thing that I'm, because usually means you're still struggling with something,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're struggling with something, and I'll talk about that emotion, or that traumatic event, or whatever it is that is really like making it hard for me, and I'm asking for help with this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop myself from
Yeah.
doing this. And he knows that that's not something that I want to do, but I'm having a hard time breaking through to not do it. So no matter how many times I do it, I can always come back. Like, I tried this time, I lasted a little bit longer than last time. I still ended up giving in, but I lasted a little bit longer. And there will be things that would appear to kind of help me through that, to eventually where now I was actually able to not do it, and it becomes a victory, and then it becomes something that we can both celebrate. It's like, yes, thank you.
Yes.
You helped me with this. This is what I needed help with. And once that came about, then I'm free. So I take the same stance with my children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't want them to be ashamed of anything that they're doing, so that they can come and talk to me about it, right? And so I can figure out what are you really struggling with at the base of it, so that
They
I
can
can
get the truth.
help you. Yes, and I can
Hmm.
help you to battle in that battle and give you the tools and technique that you're going to need to actually be able to beat that thing up,
Yeah.
because I've seen children that they'll be so ashamed. Oh, I don't want to disappoint, I'm shaming the family, I'm shaming, and then they
Hmm.
disappear, and then you don't hear from them ever again. And when you see them when they're much older, they was like, oh, I didn't want to make you upset, I know I was bringing you pain, so I figure if I just live your life, it will bring you peace and you don't have to worry about that anymore. And we know that's not true, because as a parent, it's like, no, I want you here, I want to know, and I would have been able to help you, I would have been able to, we would have been able to do it together, go through it together, I could hold your hand, guide you through that.
Yeah.
So, and because I have that, and it's like, okay, when my children have to have that too. And literally homeschooling her that way, it was such a blessing, to the point where she started, when she, puberty, and she became a teenager, like, things just went really wrong, all the way wrong. She was running away, like all sorts of things. And a lot of things that I taught her prior to, she was putting all of that stuff into use.
Hmm.
Even when she was out there, she was exercising those things.
It
And
didn't
I will
depart from
always
her.
tell her, every time I'll find her, yes, no, every time I'll find her, I never showed anger. I've only shown her love. Like, listen, I know you're going through something, let's talk about it. What is it that you need? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm here. You need me, I'm here. And she'll be here for a little bit. 2 weeks will go by. Everything seems to be okay. And then she'll disappear again, you
Hmm.
know? And just, I mean, I have to go through that over and over and over. And it was hard on me, but at the same time, I also had to understand, and this is where us parents tend to fall, is that I did bring trauma into her life. Me and her father are not together, but we did bring trauma into her life. And when you do something wrong to someone, especially to your child, you don't get to decide when that ends. You don't get to decide or pick when it's enough is enough, right?
Hmm.
You have to amend to your right? You have to take accountability for it, and you have to write it out. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you took part in putting that in, then you got to write it out all the way out until it is taken care of or done. You're not the person to decide that. I couldn't tell her, like, okay, cut it out. Like, I'm better. I don't do those things anymore. Why are you still acting that way? One have nothing to do with the other. One has nothing to do with the other. I just had to be there. And I had to also rely on God, because at times it's like I didn't have the energy to keep, because like everything that I was doing, no matter what I was doing, it just was not working. Like, it
Hmm.
just wasn't working. And whenever she was home, we were still homeschooling. That was the beauty of it. Like, we were still homeschooling. She loved learning. She really, really loved homeschooling, because we always did a lot of things together. And I will just keep putting those things into her head. I always keep letting her know, like, you know what? I'm here for you. You need me. And then at the same time, one thing children do, because I also did it when I was in the system, when someone tells you, I love you unconditionally, especially to children, it comes to a point when that child is going to test that. Do you
Yes.
really mean it? Do you really mean it? Right? And the only way they can know if you truly mean it is by them they will act up and do things just to catch you on the lie. So they can be like, ha, I knew you didn't love me. I
Hmm.
knew you didn't mean that. I knew that. Da, 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 da. And sometimes they do things like with my daughter, she was doing things to push me away, because she also came into a point where she didn't want to be here no more. Right. But I was always showing up. And that was like a needle on her side, like, let me go
That
already.
thorn. Yeah.
Like, what? Yes. She's like, she needed, the catalyst would have been me saying, you know what? I'm tired of you. get out of my house. I'm not doing that. That would have given her the green light, because then she would be like, you know what? My mom don't care about me either. My mother doesn't love me. And then that would have been what she would have needed to push things
Push.
through. But because I was always like, nope, see her, I give her a hug, let her know how much I love her and all that stuff, she really couldn't go through with things. But she'll constantly would do things. And I'll tell her, I know exactly what you're doing. And when we're going through therapy, she'll say too, she because we had open communication, she'll say, yes, that's what I was doing. I didn't want you to come looking for me. She'll tell people that I kicked her out. She'll make up all kinds of lies, and it was hurting me. It was hurting me to no end. But that wasn't something I could show her, because she was already carrying too much. I didn't want her to also start thinking like, oh, well, because when people would come in, they'd be like, oh, look what you're doing to your mother. La, 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 la. That doesn't help.
It doesn't.
She knows she is going through something, and you putting heavier stuff on top, and she's like,
You gotta push
now
them more and more away.
you don't want to add more guilt on top. I was like, no, don't tell that. Don't bring me into the thing. Like, no, I just want her to be supported. I want you guys to kind of surround her and just give her love. Because when more people show you love, at some point you're going to give up, because it's like, because I wanted to prove to her like the thoughts that she was having here was false, were false. So my action had to prove the opposite, and it was crazy, because I also was dealing with cancer at the time, and then I had other two children, and people would be like, oh, if she want to be out there, leave her out there. You got two other children to worry about, and you're sick. I was like, I have three children, and out of my three children, there's one that's going through something, and I'm not leaving her out there. She's my responsibility. She still is a kid. She's my child, my responsibility. I'm not leaving her out there to the wolf. She has no idea what she's doing. People be like, yes, she does. No, she knows what she's doing in terms of her action. She doesn't know what it means in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of life. She does not know that, because she's only X amount of years old. Right? She's only 13 years old. She's only 14. She has 14 years of experience. She don't know what that means down the line for her.
You may think you do, but you don't.
And I don't want her to think like, I want her to work through her problem. I want her to get help. I want her to be helped. I want to be able to bring her back. I want to deal with whatever hurt and pain that is aching at her. I want to get down to that. And I've asked people to help me. And a lot of people, they couldn't. They didn't know how to help me. The only thing they knew how to say is for me to just give up on my child. I was like, are you serious? And I come from a world of being in foster care where plenty of
People
parents have given up their children. And I see what that does to kids. You have no idea. Like, to be young and feeling like nobody cares about you alone. No, I was like, I don't know. I'm not having my child feel that way. Like, that was one emotion. I was like, no, she's going to know no matter what time that phone ring, no matter what she does, I'm going to show up, period. Because I told her, and I've said, unconditional love. And that's what that means to me. I don't have a condition to that. Why is it that when people are married, and you're going through ruffle with your husband or your wife, they tell you to stick it out, work it through, stick it in there. People can rally around you to help you. But when it's with your child, you want me to tell her peace out because I have two others? No, how about you come in, help me take care of the two that I have, so that I can go
focus on her.
Focus on her. Come and help me that way. But people didn't want to take that on. People don't want to take that on. This is why our children are so angry at the adults, because the adults are the one that hurted them at the end of the day. They got hurt at the end of the adult, but then the adults don't want to deal with the consequences of your action. I had to deal with the consequences of my action and inaction. I had to face it.
And it shapes how the children turns out to be and the adults that they turn into. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's like perpetual behavior. And that's how you get the starts of those constant generational curses of behaviors and triggers are the same thing. You see people like in the family, like you see, let's say somebody has a lot of children and then their child has a lot of children and their child has a lot of children because they see the same thing because nobody was telling them like, wait a second, do it this way or do it different, because then that means admitting that you messed up. And
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
parents don't like to admit
Yeah.
that.
But if I
So
didn't homeschool, I wouldn't have learned all of her ways,
mhm,
right? Like how she works, how she learns. Because my daughter, she has a 3 months attention span when it comes to anything that she's learning. And I had to learn that the hard way.
mhm,
So me, I like you start something, you gotta see it through all the way until the end. That's not how she works.
mhm,
For her is because she loves and she has this big curiosity about everything. So she'll
mhm,
start something and then she starts something else. And then I had to step back because I was like, it just wasn't working. I was like, okay, let me
mhm,
see how long it takes her to get off of a thing. Like, and I'll time it. I was like, okay. And I saw that 3 months was the number. So now when I'm teaching her things, I'm giving myself 3 months window
mhm,
because she gets bored after that. And once she's bored, she clocks out. And no matter
mhm.
what you say, she's not taking it in anymore.
Yeah.
So after 3 months, I either have to add something new or have to move on to something entirely different. And she'll stay on board where she's still firing and she's still learning. I had to learn that because I was trying to teach her the way how I learn, and
Mhm.
she doesn't learn the way how I
Way
learn.
that
My
you learn.
son,
Yeah.
yes, none of them. So you have to learn your child's learning style. It's really important because once you know your child learning style, that's your key to how to bring things into their mind. Like my son, and with children, repeat, repetition is key. We complain like, how many times I have to keep telling you the same thing? How many times? Children learn through repetition. You're
Mhm.
gonna repeat until it is in their head, but not just repeat with words, also action. As
Action.
you're
Yeah.
repeating it, how make sure that they're doing it. That means you have to stay on top of them.
Mhm.
If you say, like say for like, okay, you know you're supposed to wake up and brush your teeth every morning, your child is not doing that, right?
Mhm.
Then that means your child is not ready to do that on their own. That means you take on back that responsibility every morning, get up, go brush your teeth. If that means you have to stand there and watch them brush their teeth, then so be it. And you're going to do that until it becomes such a habit. And then when you're not there, you'll step back a little bit and see, have they gotten it yet? Can it continue on their own? And if you see they can continue on without you, then you know that they've got it. If you see that they still don't got it, then you stay on top
Yeah.
because that's letting you know how long it takes for them for things to actually stick.
Mhm.
You have to know that
Yeah.
so that you don't give up too soon. You don't want to give up too soon. You
Yeah.
know, some children, they don't want a whole lot of help. Just tell me what to do. I got it.
Mhm.
So if you have that type of child, tell them what to do and let them do it and back off. Don't stay on top of a child that doesn't respond well to that because then you're creating conflict, right? You give them something, step back, see, okay, well, when I step back, you wasn't able to do it. What happened? Then teach them on how to be able to ask for help. Being like, I need help with this. I
It
need help with that.
is knowing your child. That's what it comes down to, is
Yeah,
knowing your children and actually taking that time to know what method works for this
yeah.
one versus the other, because
For them,
um,
yes,
everybody has individuality and they
yeah,
are different. And
yes.
but
And
I
if you're
just
gonna
want
step, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say because I got a meeting that I have to go to,
No
but I was
problem.
gonna say one thing I can say, because I do want to do because we have questions that we didn't even get to, so I want to do the another part two to tackle those
Okay.
questions. But one thing I did want to say with this one, I found so interesting because this is not today. It wasn't just homeschooling. What you did was give life schooling,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to see like life schooling slash homeschooling is the same relationship, and the same methods that you use with your children is the same thing like the Most High Yah uses with us. And it's just seeing like it's like a mirror effect. And
Yeah.
it's like you use what he used for you. And
Yes.
the key thing was that unconditional love. Like no matter what we do wrong, he still loves us and shows us no matter how much we run away, push him
Mhm.
away, we act out, he still
Mhm.
loves us. And even with
Yeah.
repetition, I notice even like what we always say, children learn by repetition, but we do too. So it's like everything that we do, we are
Yeah.
all in general repetitious people. So it was just interesting to see how like the two correlate together. And just like I was just sitting there like, wow, like this is the same thing. How you interact with your children is how the Most High acts with us, and how
Yeah.
our relationship is when you have a genuine relationship and actually communicate no matter what, and you don't hide. And I think that was something that really stood out, and I think that is really important for people to take from this is don't condemn yourself and don't hide, but face it head on with him,
No.
facing out head on with but
Yeah.
then facing out with your children, because that's how you truly build relationship, communication, and that's how you have a true personal relationship. So
Yes.
I just want to say
Absolutely.
thank you, Journey. And I
You're
guess again
welcome.
we're gonna correlate another time to finish the rest, because I have another meeting that I literally, it's been one of those. But I do
No
just want to
problem.
leave off with
Looking
this.
forward to it.
I'm going to leave her email in case everybody who's interested in like homeschooling as well as foraging. I'm gonna leave that in the description box. And then also, I just want to end this with my favorite scripture, Proverbs 3:5 and 6. And that's trusting Yah with all thy heart and lean not to thy own understanding. In all thy ways, acknowledge
Mhm.
him, and he shall direct thy paths. So again, I say thank you, Journey, and I really
That's
appreciate
right.
everything.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you guys.
Let
Bye.
me stop this right here.